basin. So at each corner, there's 2 revision clouds. So in the prior revision, where my mouse is on the screen, that butts the Route 28 corner of the building, there was a gap in the landscaping due to basin access location. We since revised the basin access to be on the north side of the basin towards the Route 22 side and not towards the Route 28 side. And therefore, we were able to add 6 additional evergreen trees in that corner to provide more of a buffer and fill in that gap along the Route 28 frontage.
Thank you, Mr. Cosman. And you believe that will achieve the creation of the buffer the board had discussed in January?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because that was an issue when we were at January's meeting, was you didn't know because of the grading and everything, if you could do that, but you'll be satisfied that that will be acceptable?
Yes.
You just showed a gap on the simulation pictures that you had, and there was a gap, and that's where this came about. So you're happy with the way the grading will be, that these additional ones will solve that issue?
Yes, I am. We were able to reposition some of the trees to really push trees towards the Route 28 to provide more screen towards the residents on the south, near Bogart as well. And then we were able to add 6 additional trees beyond to what we previously had. So yes.
Yeah, because some of the neighbors had concerns about that also.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, thank you. Any board members have questions for Mr. Kunzman? How about our professionals? And Richard, I don't know, we haven't sworn them in tonight. Do we have to swear them in as well?
Sure. They were previously sworn, but we'll do it again.
Right.
Stand to, please raise your hands. You solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And again, just for the record, your acknowledgements, names. Thank you.
Thank you. So board professionals, do you have any questions for this witness?
Mr. Chairman, I have just one point of clarification for the applicant's engineer. So Matt, on your revised exhibit where you're showing the additional landscaping in exchange for removing the previous basin access drive, the remnants of that driveway is still shown on your exhibit. I assume that's going to come off in a future revision and you're going to nuance the grading in that area?
That's
Just want to
correct.
make sure. So there's not going to be a basin access from the south or from the Route 28 side. It's going to come from the 22 side.
That's correct.
And the plans will be finalized as a condition if this application is approved.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Ahmed?
No, the landscape plan addressed my comments at the last hearing. By moving that stabilized turf area, they're able to kind of fill in that gap. So it addresses what my concerns.
Okay. Thank you very much. So with that, I'd like to open the meeting to the members of the public who have only questions related to Mr. Kunzman's specific testimony this evening. He's already been questioned on his other testimony. And we would ask that you not repeat a question if it's already been asked. And in the interest of both being fair to the many members of the public and the applicant, if we can manage this process, it'll give us an opportunity to answer the questions we need answered and to move on with new testimony. Any members of the public wishing to address Mr. Kunzman's specific testimony? And please sign in, tell us your name and your address.
Jim Brady, 351 Route 28, Bridgewater. In regard to the testimony, in the last meeting, it was stated that the applicant could not meet the 75% evergreen standard that was requested by the board. And they said it was something like 51% is what they would adhere to, and the rationale was, well, we don't want to destroy mature, non-evergreen trees along the Route 28 neighborhood border.
I'd like it to be relevant to his testimony tonight.
So adding 6 trees,
Yes.
I think is insufficient, but I want to know, with the addition of those 6 trees, are you anywhere near approaching the 75% evergreen standard requested?
No, we'll still be deficient of that standard, be slightly higher, but you heard previously, we've added a double row of evergreens on the bottom of the slope on Route 28, and then additionally, there's a row of evergreen trees along the site drive aisle as well, and then that corner where there's no existing buffer vegetation, there's a double row, even potentially a triple row of evergreen trees and deciduous trees. So I believe this buffer is sufficient and meets the intent of the code.
Great, thank you.
Am I allowed to present an image that can be
No,
thrown on? Okay.
not at this time.
All right.
You will at the
I'll
end.
do it in the public
Yes,
comment
exactly,
section.
right.
Okay. But briefly,
Not
Areas
briefly.
that we're
We
not
just,
allowed?
we really have to confine the
Okay,
questions
all
as
right.
testimony. You'll get your chance.
okay, so it's not meeting the 75% standard. That's all I wanted to clarify.
That's
Okay.
the answer, right?
That's the answer, yes. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to question Mr. Kunzman on his specific testimony this evening? Seeing none, Mr. Capizzi? You prefer Capizzi, which would you like?
Capizzi's fine, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. William McGeever, our architect, Mr. Chairman.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. And your name for the record, please?
William McGeever.
McGeever, Mr. McGeever, you were accepted by the board as an expert in architecture previously. Has anything changed with your license?
No, my license is still in good standing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGeever, we had supplied the board with an updated plan from your office as well, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that plan was revised as of March 25th of this year?
That is correct.
Thank you. Is that the plan you have
Yes.
broadcasting on the screen?
That is correct.
Can you take us through the revisions, please?
Sure. At the last hearing, it was asked of us that, by the board planner, as a recommendation that the two-tone eaves coloring, the horizontal line between the darker and lighter colors be raised up higher. So if you can see from these clouded areas, we have raised that approximately 3 feet to align with the loading door canopy, so we have a nice alignment with that. It is still a significant amount. It's closer to a 50-50 split of the two tones at the highest side of the building, which is the west. The other comment was coordination, better coordination of the wall pack lights to clarify that along the south elevation, we do have no wall pack lights, and that the civil plans identify that pole lights will be provided to shine the light towards the building to make sure that the lighting is not shining towards the residential properties to the south.
Thank you, Mr. McGeever. As far as the material and their true representation, do we have some samples for discussion?
Yes. So the two colors that we have proposed onto the building are natural white and Van Dyke.
I know our last exhibit was A17, so why don't you just tell us which one you'd like
We're
to
up to
start with?
A18, right?
So this will be A18.
Yes.
So we'll mark the natural white color sample as A18 and the Van Dyke as A19. Would you like me to write that on top on each of these?
Yes.
So these are samples provided by the manufacturer of the actual colors.
If you can just remind us just the material again, please?
So the material is a dry-vit stucco eaves system, which is an exterior insulation facade system.
And is that color true throughout the material?
Yes, so that color, as you can see between in the elevations, the natural white would be up top with the Van Dyke down below.
Thank you.
We're going to be circulating the materials among the board members just so they can see them. And as we conclude that, if you want to continue speaking with us, or is that the end of your
I
testimony?
don't have any further questions for him, Mr. Chairman.
So I'll pause for a moment and ask the board members if anyone has a question for Mr. McKeever about that which he's testified tonight, specifically about the color changes and the way in which he's brought the color up higher to that point that was requested by Ms. Sarmat.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. One thing that we brought up previously was the 3-foot 6-inch parapet, that it doesn't meet the regulation. And I was understanding you were going to address that?
It was my understanding, Mr. Franco, that the regulation has a maximum height, which we're well below, and that the parapet limitation is in exceedance of the maximum allowable height. So the zone allows 45 feet
Ms.
plus a parapet.
Catherine, if you can address that. Remember, the issue of the parapet came up at our last meeting. It's 3-foot 6. I think we have a 3-foot limit.
There is a 3-foot limit. It's under the definition for building height, and it's not, it doesn't matter if it's over the building height or under the building height. The parapet is a separate calculation, so there is relief required. I don't know if it's changed. I'd like to.
As my understanding, should be relief required or reduce it down to 3 feet, which reduces the building height to the view of the residents.
Well, so we're already at, I think, we're at 31.2 feet where we're allowed 45. So if a variance is required, we'll request one. I think the intention of the ordinance is to allow a 3-foot invasion of the maximum building height to allow up to 48 feet.
Really just looking for any way that it limits the visual impact to the residents.
Understood. I think the modifications we made to the plans have
Do you
done
still
that.
have the 3D renderings that you've done of the various locations? Because I know a lot of these people hadn't seen those.
We were really respectfully looking not to go back in time to the January discussion, but we certainly do have them if a member has a question on it. William, as far as the parapet height at its present location, I know you were wanting to keep it as we had designed it to shield the mechanicals and for other,
Shows the mechanicals and the aesthetic of the design would be diminished a bit if
Well, the
we had-
mechanicals are set back on the building visually with the height and everything. You wouldn't, the sight lines, unless you did a sight line analysis of it, you shouldn't be able to see the mechanicals.
Correct, and
They're
that's
far enough away, so the parapet shouldn't impact at all.
correct. That statement is true, but
So, William, as far as where we are with the design, do we have any wiggle room to bring it down a bit?
I don't believe aesthetically we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the parapet, do you have equipment near the edge of that would then require some sort of like fall protection for workers per
All
OSHA requirements?
And feedback from the edge to not require that, so that we don't have to provide a 42-inch guardrail height at that point.
Right, and that's kind of what your parapet height is. So you don't really need that height for, let's say, worker safety per OSHA regulations.
Correct.
Strictly aesthetics.
Okay.
Other board members, questions for Mr. McKeever specific to his testimony this evening?
Yeah, I have a question. The color on the,
That's okay, we can wait. Yeah, please.
So while we're waiting for that, Catherine, the question on the parapet, if it's in the definitions, is it really a variance or is it a design waiver? I mean, it's not in the zoning ordinance.
It's an interesting question. I think we previously treated it. Sorry. I don't remember how it's been treated previously. I think the previous application where this came up, they did seek a variance for it. It's a good point. It's not in the zoning ordinance. It very generally applies to building height and parapet allowances.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is if it's not in the zoning ordinance, it's not a variance, right? It's a design waiver,
Yeah, I think that's, I mean,
right?
yeah, I think it can be, it is a deviation. I think a design waiver is probably appropriate.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't appear in the zoning.
It makes sense to acknowledge the deviation, but in my opinion, it's insignificant in the overall scheme of the building and does not exceed the building height and so on. So I think if it's appropriate, we can just deal with it, Mr. Oler, that way as a design waiver.
I think that's the right way to deal with it.
Mr. Capizzi?
I would be in agreement.
Very well.
Mr. McGeever just had some additional testimony just to explain the aesthetic impact if we modified the parapet. Could you elaborate, please?
Yes, so to clarify to Mr. Franco, I'm talking about with the aesthetic, bear with me, need to get the, zoom in here. At the the northwest corner, closest to Route 28, we do have this tower location, which identifies the office and is a call to action with our display units. If we were to
That's
lower
28
the
or
height,
22 or 28, I'm
I
sorry.
apologize, corner to 22, my mistake. Lowering this is where we would have that height differential, or the height requested to be lower to the parapet, because the roof height across the top is more or less uniform with a tapered insulation roof. So lowering that limits our signage location, as well as breaks up the ratio of the brick around in framing this, makes it very thin on the top, and I don't feel that that aesthetically is appealing. I think that the height giving us allows us to have the adequate signage necessary, as well as is appealing to keep the ratio.
More importantly, William, the area where we need the waiver is on 22, not 28, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board professionals, were there additional questions that you had for Mr. McKeever relative to his testimony this evening?
Again, similar to the landscape plan, the applicant has addressed the request made, or the recommendation rather made, to redesign the building facade to help with building scale, and did that in a way that was kind of how I had recommended it. Sorry, the microphone seems to be low. But other than that, I don't have any questions. I think this most recent elevation worked off of the last draft, or the last concept that was provided. And so I think that there's not much else. We haven't seen updated renderings. I think the last time we saw renderings with landscaping and the building, the colors were still, the color scheme proposed was a bit different. So I don't know if that's something the board want to see. It might be warranted.
You're referencing the pictures we had seen last time,
Yes.
and so they don't, those pictures would not reflect the change in the bringing up of the darker color and so on. I don't know, I'll poll the board and see if that's something they would need to see, but given the pictures we're looking at now, indicating the improvement consistent with your request, personally, I don't think I need to see them, but let me ask the other board
I had a
member.
question before.
Well, let me address this first.
It's about the color.
It's okay, it's the same, we'll get to it, but I'm asking the board if they need to see additional renderings, or if this will suffice given the changes that were requested and made. And my personal opinion is I don't need to see new drawings.
I do not need to see them.
So generally, we have a kind of consensus now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the only reason I brought it up is, one of the things I was concerned about is the visual view of the eastern portion of the building, which is still just pretty much a blank wall,
Yes.
as opposed to bringing the faux windows all the way into that portion of the building. So it still gives that kind of warehouse effect to it, or a flex building where you've got warehouse and then you've got fabrication.
And you're talking about,
I believe the intent was to create something that would give you the visual concept of an office building.
Right.
I don't know what the possibility of carrying the faux windows into that.
Given the grade at that point and the landscaping that's proposed, that elevation wouldn't be visible, which is why
That's why I wanted to see the 3D.
we discussed that in January.
Understood, but then we made the change.
The change was only to the break point in the material. The material is the same.
No, the faux windows became part of the change. The renderings that were given before had just the blue and white.
That's not correct. The presentation that was in January, that's why you only have one sheet, because there were no changes to the building other than the break point of materials. There have been no additions or deletions to the faux windows.
I'll take your word.
so we can reference,
Please do.
we can reference those drawings
Yes.
and have what we need. Very well. Thank you. So with that, Mrs. Amin, did you have a question, please?
On this drawing, you have the east elevation. On the east elevation, the face of the east elevation, you show something, so those are lights mounted on the,
Yes, so those lights in the side of the revision cloud, are just showing that those were just slightly relocated to coordinate with the location shown on the civil plans.
what's the height of those lights?
If they give me to zoom in here, bear with me.
Doesn't matter, it's okay. See, the question I have is you don't have lights on the other sides of the building or only?
So to answer your first question, those lights are roughly at 20 feet above the adjacent grade or the asphalt. And bear with me here. You'll see that we do have those lights on the other elevations on the west where we have the loading, but we do not have them facing the side of the residence. As I stated before, that is pole-mounted lights that are shining towards the building to prevent light from spilling towards the residence.
That's where you have the 10 parking spots on the west side.
Yes, so the parking spots are along the west side here.
Oh,
And they are along the east side as well, which is why there are additional lights in that side.
okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Amin.
Yeah,
And you did have a question, Tony?
unless I'm missing something, the samples of the colors that we have don't appear to have as much contrast as is in the drawing that we have right now. Is there going to be a visual breakpoint between those two colors as depicted in these drawings, or is it going to be much more subtle?
Each of these horizontal and vertical gray lines are roughly a 1 inch by 1 inch reveal. So if you assume the surface, 1 inch by 1 inch cut in, and then that would be the break point between the two colors.
I'm not following that. I mean, the color samples that we have don't appear to have as much contrast as in the drawing, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is that the color that we have then is not really consistent with what's in the drawing, is it?
The reason for the samples is because there was question about how accurate the representation was between the screen, the print, these screens.
Okay, so then this is not that accurate.
What you have, sir, is accurate.
Can you clarify what
Well,
this
because
is?
I'm
The
looking at
samples
those
that were
two
passed
samples.
around are the true
Right,
colors.
are you asking, though, whether the drawing you have in front of you is an accurate depiction of the color? And the answer to that is no. It is representative of the color contrast. The materials that we were handed would actually show the degree of contrast between the two colors.
Correct.
Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yes.
Okay, and I got to be honest myself, I have a little trouble telling the difference between the two, but I always have had a color issue with this, so I'm not voting on this part. But maybe, Ms. Sarmad, would you want to look at this and determine whether you think it's appropriate, an appropriate contrast?
Darker shade.
3 pair of khaki pants that are all the same shade, but everybody tells me they're 3 different shades, so I don't know. I'm not the guy.
I didn't see these before I made any comments. And this was, I think, something that came up at the last hearing, so I probably should have waited to ask questions or provide comments until I saw this. Mr. Bignella is, I think, accurate. There's not much contrast between these two, certainly not as much as depicted in the rendering, which was something that was brought up at the last hearing, mostly because how it appeared on the screen and in the PDFs and in the printed drawings was why it was brought up, really.
Yes.
We can swap out the Van Dyke for this color, which has more contrast.
Right.
So wait, before that happens, we're going to mark that. I think we're up to 20.
What color was that, William?
Sand
I don't remember the color off the top.
Pearl, no, I'm sorry, pearl ash.
Pearl ash.
I'll circulate these back to the board.
And Catherine, in your opinion, that new contrast is more consistent with what you had requested or envisioned for the building?
Certainly what's represented on the, it's more accurate to what's represented on the plan, I believe. The pearl ash that we just received to look at definitely has, darker tones that do provide the contrast. I think the natural white color that was brought up at the last hearing, there were questions because it appeared on the screen as very, very bright.
Yes.
And I think the sample provided shows that it has a warmer tone. It is still pretty white, but I think with the updated renderings that show more of the darker color, I'm more comfortable with it than what it previously was. But certainly, whatever second sample was just provided, the pearl ash is certainly an improvement and certainly more representative of the drawings.
And Mr. Oler, is there some way we can insert the appropriate condition that the color contrast is approved by someone other than me?
Well, I was just making a note to have a condition to use the pearl ash and natural white colors, right? You agree?
Correct.
With that? That's what you're proposing? Yes.
Everybody okay with the color discussion on the board's end?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to pass those down. Thank you. Let me take a moment to open the floor to the public who might want to ask questions of Mr. McKeever. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Burr, please.
Real quick, thank you. William, just a question on the wall packs, real quick, with the lighting.
Yes.
Your testimony was you removed the wall packs that were previously proposed from the south elevation, which is what faces generally Route 28.
To an extent, yes. Removed in the sense that we, as the architectural firm and architectural drawings showed them, Civil had already previously changed them to the light posts. So we missed the coordination on that.
Okay,
So there, go ahead.
so on your new exhibit, they were removed to match the Civil.
Correct, yes.
The one question I have, though, is it looks like you added wall packs to the western elevation, which is the elevation that could be seen from both 28 and 22. And I'm wondering why that was, since there's already parking lot lights proposed as well. Is there a need for wall pack units on that west elevation? I think there's 2 shown, and they weren't previously, so I'm just wondering why they got added back in.
I would have to confirm and double check with Civil on this, but I believe the depth in which the light would have to be thrown from the parking lot end of stalls to the building might have exceeded the beam spread of the posts.
Okay. I just want to be sure that with the elevation of the building and where those wall packs would be mounted, it's not going to give the appearance of a spotlight.
I can understand that. Those lights are shielded lights, such that the light is directed straight, is downward, so they're not directed out of the property line.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Burr, does that answer your question in terms of the change made and the impact?
Yeah,
Okay.
they absolutely need to be downshielded and cut off, and we'll make sure that the plans show those details with the landscaping that's proposed and the fact that these really do kind of hug what I would say the 22 side.
Yes.
I think it works, but I think there was discussion of a condition that a post-construction 6-month inspection be done with particular focus on the lighting, and if there are any lighting issues, they certainly can get resolved at that point as well.
And Mr. Capizzi, was that something that we had previously discussed, or is that a new condition that we're discussing now?
We had offered that in January, and that
Okay.
continues.
But I just want to make sure everybody's in agreement.
Certainly, yes, that's fine.
Thank you. So with that, I'd like to open the meeting to the public who have questions specific to Mr. McKeever's testimony this evening. Anybody have questions for our architect? And please sign in and then tell us your name.
Good evening, Carolyn Joya, 1402 Paley Court.
Would you spell your last name for us, please?
Sure, Gioia.
Very well. Thank you.
My question relates to a storage, it relates to your design of this facility. We're talking about the colors, we're talking about the trees. We have a prime storage facility on Route 28 already, which has has an appeal that looks much more residential. And I'm wondering if in your analysis of how you wanted to design the exterior of this facility, did you look around our town and take a look at what
I'm going to
other
have to
storage
just ask you to
facilities
pause for a moment,
look like?
because we would like him to address, like you to address his testimony this evening. His prior testimony has already been questioned.
Right.
And in the interest of time, we want you to focus on what he's spoken to this evening.
Right, well, it has to do with the color scheme and things that he,
You can ask him about the color scheme.
you consider
and
other
you might want to
storage-
put that in the form of a question differently
Yeah.
than you have been so far.
Did you consider the color scheme of other storage facilities in our town when you selected the colors that you wanted for this particular facility?
I did not look at other storage facilities in your town. I looked at adjacent properties which had earth tone colors and went with an earth tone palette.
Would you be willing to take a look at that facility and see if you could more appropriately match it to what you were considering doing?
We're going to stay with what's proposed.
Okay, thank
I
you
would
very
say
much.
that, thank you, that the color scheme as it's been proposed is the color scheme they're presenting to us this evening.
I understand, I just was wondering if he had any interest in
You got it.
reevaluating it, that's all. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Anyone else with questions specific to this evening's testimony for our architect, Mr. McKeever? And you've signed in before, but remind everybody your name.
Jim Brady,
Jim?
does the lighting proposal you just mentioned with the directional placement and baffles decrease the foot candle power down to the required 1.0 from the 2.6 previously proposed at the building perimeter?
That would be a question for civil as they did the photometric lights, not the
Okay?
architect.
You were just talking about the lighting and how it was going to not affect the neighborhood, but that's a really quantitative question that I think should be answered at some point.
We are not seeing any waivers from the light requirements.
So you'll be in compliance with the ordinance.
How is 2.6 candle powers in compliance if the requirement is 1.0?
Well, he's going to be in compliance at 1.0 at the property line, right? Yeah. Right.
And there's no documentation that exists to verify that?
It was discussed in January as part of our,
Discussed, but was any evidence presented to verify that?
yes, there's a lighting plan as part of the engineering assessment.
Right. And they've agreed to comply. Thank you. Mr. Capizzi?
Our next witness is Paul Rickey, our planner.
So, Mr. Rickey, we're going to ask you some questions. Well, it looks like your attorney's asking questions, so we'll wait.
Sorry about that, Mr.
No, it's okay. So would you like to introduce him, please?
Always a last-minute huddle about something.
That's
right?
okay.
No matter how much you prepare.
Let me swear in first. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. And your name for the record, please.
Mike's off. Paul Rickey, R-I-C-C-I.
So you should have a green light on, and if it is, then you can talk directly into the mic.
It's now on, so I think I'm good. Thank you. My name is Paul Rickey. I'm a licensed professional planner. Been licensed since the year 2000. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I have a master's degree in city and regional planning, which I received from Rutgers University in 1997. I'm currently a municipal planning consultant to 7 communities. I testify regularly in front of boards. I've been qualified in over 250 towns, including Bridgewater on several occasions.
And could you spell your last name for us?
R-I-C-C-I.
Thank you. Just a little microphone tip for you. If you're going to be facing the board and you're moving your head, you're moving it away from the mic, so move the mic the way you want to point your face. Thank you.
I will do my best.
Mr. Rickey, can you tell the board your involvement with this application?
Sure. I've been involved in this application since its inception. As part of that, I've been several team calls, part of this process through the beginning, reviewed the various iterations of the plans, documentation, reviewed your master plan, went to the site on several occasions, and formulated a planning opinion as to the appropriateness of this use in this context.
Thank you. If you can take us through your analysis, please.
Sure. Do I need to repeat the variances? Are we sure on that? Do we want to go?
I think it's a good idea for you to do that, yes.
In terms of the relief that we're requesting, I think the board is aware, a D1 use variance as self-storage facilities are not permitted in your C3 zone. A floor area ratio variance to permit a floor area ratio of 0.44, where a maximum of 0.30 is permitted. The front yard setback variance facing the Route 22 frontage, 200 feet is required where 100 feet is proposed. And again, that's the additional standard that's placed on the 200 on Route 22. Your schedule of bulk regulations has a 100-foot requirement in the C3 zone to allow 2 loading spaces where 4 are required, and to allow the freestanding sign with a setback of 5 feet versus 30 feet. In terms of relief being requested, I know the board is aware of the relief. For the D1 use variance, we have to show that the site is particularly well suited at this location and that the variance can be granted without a substantial detriment to the public good, namely the surrounding property owners, without a substantial impairment of your zone plan, and that's with the enhanced burden of proof to reconcile the omission of this use from your master plan and zoning ordinance. The floor area ratio variance has a lower burden. The focus on the positive criteria is to demonstrate that the site can accommodate the problems associated with the increased FAR and that the site is still appropriate in this context, given its exceedance. And with all variances, we always have to demonstrate that they can be granted without a substantial detriment to the public good in zone plan. I do note, I'm not sure how Mr. Oler feels, but when there is a use variance, the use is not anticipated in the zone, and under previous case law, the Paleo decision, those variants are usually subsumed together, and the board looks at an application in its collectivity because there aren't specific standards for self-storage facilities. With that mentioned, I am going to discuss the suitability, and I'm also going to discuss, in the context of this application, the appropriateness of the variances as well, but I'm just putting it out there that traditionally these applications are reviewed in their totality for the reasons that I mentioned.
You know, for the most part, I agree with that, but not every time, right? And in your case, the size, for example, of the loading spaces, I don't think that's subsumed into it. I think the setbacks are, because, you know, you have the required setbacks in the zone, and the zone doesn't contemplate a warehouse. So in that sense, that type of deviation is subsumed, but again, not all.
Okay. And I'm going to touch upon everything, and I'm going to try to be direct, concise, but still thorough enough to address the criteria here. From my observation, from a planning standpoint, I saw this as a town planner as well. I saw this application as really an opportunity for a site that is, lack of a better word, failing miserably. It's an abandoned property. I do a lot of formal redevelopment work. This property, I think without question, would qualify as a formal area in need of redevelopment. There's broken windows. The site is essentially an abandoned property at this point. It doesn't exude a positive influence on the area. This is in your C3 zone. It fronts on a federal highway, and also the other main roadway is a state roadway. This is an economic development area of the township where, through the township's master plan, it looks to reinvest and for this to be an economic driver for the township. This is an economic development area in the township. Regarding some surrounding land uses, I know the board has heard this. Right adjoining us, my understanding that it's a landscaping business that's operating with a lot of trucks and outdoor storage occurring. You also have the car facility, the assisted living facility. There's I believe it works as office space, but it's a fragrance company. And then on the opposite side of the road largely, and then some extent on the same side of Route 28, you have single-family homes. And, well, I'm going to talk about this through my testimony, and that's one of the reasons that the use that we're proposing here works really well, is because while a commercial use in a commercial zone, it's one of the least intensive land uses of a commercial nature that really exist. As a planner in communities that I represented, I actually recommend this use adjacent to residential properties
because of its passive nature. Once these facilities are filled, there's very little activity that occurs during them. And I think I testified for another self-storage facility in town, but another portion of town, in that I've literally been on self-storage sites elsewhere. I do some work for the wireless companies, and they were looking to build a wireless tower, been on site for several hours, and it seemed like one or two people at these facilities. So they're very passive facilities once they're operational. In terms of permitted uses, in your C3 zone, it allows for a full range of office uses, essential services, nursing homes and assisted living facilities, medical and dental offices, research laboratories, and research activities. Also allows health clubs, wellness centers, day spas and gyms, indoor commercial recreation, adult medical daycare, and medical support centers. In my review of the characteristics of Route 22 in this area, approximately 37,000 vehicles travel past the property daily. The site is clearly designed to accommodate non-residential uses with strong vehicular access and visibility. Again, the condition of the site is in a state where its redevelopment, I think, should be prioritized in this context. The site is conforming in area. It's 5.3 acres, where 5 acres is required. And in my review of the site plan, its configuration and frontage allow for the building and circulation to be accommodated while maintaining buffering and substantial open space, which I'll discuss in a second. You've heard from the architect, the height and the mass of this building, or the height of this building, let's start with that, is at a scale of residential nature. It's actually lower than what single-family residential homes are permitted in Bridgewater Township at 35 feet. And again, I believe this is a highly appropriate transitional character use. These are low occupancy, low noise, low traffic, commercial uses, and for that reason, it functions as an appropriate transitionary use of a commercial property to residential land uses. It also has compatibility with the surrounding pattern of development. You lie in your Route 22 corridor containing office, institutional, commercial, and service uses. And here, in terms of the design that this facility is being delivered as, you have a professionally managed commercial use that I believe fits in the corridor context in a better fashion than permissible uses in the zone because of the lower intensity associated with this use. I did look at office vacancy in the area. In the upper 287 corridor, which Bridgewater is associated with, third quarter of 2025, there's a 16.6% vacancy rate for office, so there is not strong demand to build an office use in this location, and there is need for self-storage facilities in this context. I reviewed a report prepared as part of our team that indicates that the Bridgewater trade area has only 2 self-storage facilities in a 3-mile radius, totaling 130,142 rentable square feet, which equates to 2.7 square feet of storage per capita, which is below the national average of 5.10 square feet and the national average of 7.75 square feet. The population in the trade area is projected to grow modestly from 48,105 individuals in 2025 to 48,574 by 2027, which will slightly increase demand as well.
Mr. Ricky, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want a point of clarification, if I may.
Yes.
You're using the radius of how many miles around?
3-mile radius.
3 mile. But you're using the entire Bridgewater population when you're describing the current need, or am I misunderstanding it?
Yes, and this was taken from a special report that we had prepared that was meant to demonstrate need. I'm providing some of the summaries of that report.
So what you're saying is that the need in this area is based both on the immediate 2 or 3 mile radius that you quoted and the entire population. But there are other self-storage facilities in Bridgewater serving the wider population as well.
Yes, but the demographic analysis suggested that there's a significant undersupply, and the main issue, the main point that they use is based on population and rent leasable square feet. And the number that I gave to you indicating of 2.7 square feet of storage per capita is well below the 5.10, and the national average of 7.75 suggests that there's significant demand for this type of space in the area.
Thank you. You can continue.
And I know at one point there was an objector down the road. I'm not sure if that objection has gone away. But what the data suggests is that even after this facility is built, there would be additional need for self-storage facilities based on the projections, and that this is not a situation where somebody in retail, which often occurs, where a user comes in and outcompetes another user, which is commonplace because they think they can capture that market. Here, there's enough rentable, leasable area for everyone based on these numbers. And I think that's something that is an important distinction to be made. So what we have is an efficient use or efficient reuse of an underperforming site. I believe as a planner that redevelopment of existing corridor properties is a legitimate planning objective. I'm going to skip over my outline and move on and come back to something. There's consistency with modern market and land use realities. Again, the market for traditional office use in this corridor is weaker than when the governing planning documents were prepared. At the same time, there's been increased demand for this type of land use. I did review, you have extensive master plans here in Bridgewater. And the master plan that most relates to the Route 22 corridor is your 2010 master plan element and economic element for the Route 22 corridor. I'm also going to talk about the intent of the zone in the C3 later on. That was created first when I reviewed it in 2004. So some time has passed since the original intents of these areas were developed. But in terms of advancing objectives from that corridor master plan, that master plan indicates these following goals: enhance and increase tax ratables through diversity of high-value uses, support economic anchors and encourage reinvestment into existing facilities, adjust to the contemporary needs of commerce and Bridgewater residents, encourage long-term sustainable site planning, enable more flexibility in development context, and promote economic activity in appropriate locations, and offer building design guidelines where appropriate. So I think those really resonate with what's occurring at the subject property. I also believe that this site has the ability to accommodate the increased floor area ratio without having negative influences. Floor area ratio is really, from a planning perspective, is used twofold. It's used to limit the intensity of a property, and it's also used as a goal of limiting mass, so a site does not have mass in a manner that makes it look out of context, and the property would be out of character with the area per se. I believe that, and I've already mentioned this, in terms of intensity, which I've already discussed, we have a low practical intensity of self-storage use because self-storage involves low employee counts, low customer occupancy at any one time, low parking demand, low trip generation, limited utility demand relative to office or medical uses, and for these reasons, limited noise and external activity. In comparison to similar square footage used by general office, medical, or indoor commercial uses could impose substantially greater real-world intensity on the site than the proposed self-storage facility. So in this case, this facility would not result in increased intensity. It would be the opposite, it would have decreased intensity. In terms of how this building presents itself on the site, the R3 zone allows for impervious coverages up to 60% on the property. The applicant is proposing an impervious coverage of 32.7%. In this regard, 67% of this site approximately would remain as open space on an economic development property. I think that's a substantial finding in terms of the limited amount of this large property is actually being used for commercial purposes. Also, I know the board has worked with the architect, and your planner and engineer have worked together with them to propose a facade and a design that would emulate an office building. And while I'm going to talk about this more a little bit later, I mean, the reason in my review of your master plan documents is that a use like this was not originally prepared, because in 2004, when the intent of the zone was created, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, self-storage facilities were of a completely different character and type. They were the Phase 1 design facilities that were largely, you see these around still and in Bridgewater, single-family uses with the orange doors, and they were industrial in character, and they weren't an appropriate match in an office-type zone. And I think you've seen from the architecture that has changed significantly, and is now a use that does fit. And the applicant has presented this in a manner where they've been quite sensitive to the residents on Route 28, the planting of numerous 8 to 10 foot tall trees that are going to grow very tall over time, where this is going to be a facility that's ultimately going to have really no visibility over time from those areas. Also, the elimination of that driveway, except for emergency purposes from Route 28, is also, I thought, was a nice touch to reduce impacts to that residential area as well. But with the scale of the building that is being depicted around 31 feet or so, well under the 45 feet requirement, while we are over your floor area ratio, we're well under the height that's permissible. In the context of spreading the building out and rather than going taller, and because of the intensity of this use is so much less, like by way of example, if this was a medical office building, this site would require approximately 480 parking spaces. So that's the magnitude of difference that we're talking about, and that this type of facility brings for consideration. So it's my finding overall that although the storage building has a higher FAR than permitted, it imposes less practical intensity on the site than other building types that can occupy similar floor area. Therefore, the requested floor area ratio can be viewed as a numerical increase in enclosed floor area, but not a proportionate increase in the kinds of impacts the ordinance is designed to prevent. Regarding the bulk variances, the subject property is on an existing lot of record that requires the front yard setback variance to allow 100 feet facing Route 22, where 200 feet is required. Today, the front yard, while the building is smaller, the front yard setback is 10.6 feet. So a substantial improvement is occurring. And again, I mentioned that in your Schedule Escape regulations for your C3 district, the standard is for 100 feet. There's just an additional standard buried in the code elsewhere that requires that additional 100 feet. So we meet the core minimum for other properties in your C3 district. Despite that, there's a particularly wide right-of-way. So while there is a 100-foot setback, this building would still be 175 feet from the Route 22 cartway. Otherwise, we exceed the required rear yard setback. The way it works is, I don't think our plan shows a side yard setback, but the side yard of the building moving in the westerly direction is over 500 feet from the property line, We exceed the rear yard setback. So there's a lot of setback occurring on this property as well. And once you combine the setbacks on this property, because if you have the Route 28 setback, the Route 22 setback, and the rear yard setback, what is left on the property is the ability to, and this is my digitization of the plan, of approximately 8.6% of the site remains that could be developed. And this is an area that anticipates an economic development zone up to 60% of the site. So those setbacks on a conforming size lot heavily impact the ability to develop the property. Regarding loading spaces, and I thought, I mean, I'm not sure if this is, or in terms of the loading spaces, I thought the design now is a tasteful design where the applicant has 2 loading spaces that are interior. So that takes away any potential for visual impact. It helps regulate noise and the like. And in my opinion, the 2 loading spaces are appropriate based on the operational testimony of the applicant, knowing the needs that this facility requires. Requiring more loading spaces just creates the additional for more activity that's not needed, additional area that would need to be enclosed and screened. So in this context, I believe that reducing the number of loading spaces as delivered represents a better zoning alternative. Regarding the sign setback, despite not meeting the 30-foot required front yard setback, because of that right-of-way, the sign that is proposed is approximately 75 feet from the edge of the highway pavement. Anyone driving by does not recognize that the right-of-way is just so wide in this area. So despite the fact that we need this variance, I believe it still results in sound land use planning and meets the intent of the ordinance regarding signage. So for all the reasons I mentioned, this application advances several purposes of the municipal land use law. Purpose A, because the site is particularly well-suited, it promotes the general welfare. We've demonstrated that we have need for this use, so it provides sufficient space in appropriate locations to meet the needs of commercial users. Purpose G, I believe even though we have setback variances here, typically I would not say that adequate open space, light, air, and open space is being provided. In this context, though, due to the high amount of or low amount of impervious coverage on this site and being almost half of what's permissible or close to half of what's permissible, I believe that this application also advances an appropriate amount of light, air, and open space, which is purpose C. Regarding the negative criteria, I believe the variances can be granted without a substantial detriment to the public good in zone plan. I've touched upon a lot of the aspects. Here we have a functionally extremely low traffic generator with extremely low activity levels. We have a high degree of perimeter landscaping that's been touched upon. I think it's close to 160 trees or 160 to 180 trees just on that Route 28 side that are 8 to 10 feet in height. Again, there is a project that is less intense than other permissible uses, namely office and medical office uses. And I'll try not to be repetitive, but these type of facilities are far fewer in peak hour trips than these other permitted uses. And we're avoiding commuter surges associated with office. If you have a recreational, office recreational facility, if we have an indoor recreational facility at 45 feet tall, that's usually a 1-story facility. You could have a much more massive facility. Those facilities at times have large runs of people coming in and out of the site during different games and league events and the like. We've heard testimony on the lighting, that it will be compliance with the ordinance. No impacts to community facilities or schools would occur. A low noise generator. As well. Regarding the intent and purpose of your zone plan, this is from your 2004 master plan, and if it's okay with the board, I'm just going to read it into the record.
I don't have a specific objection, but you do know that the master plan has been updated as of last year.
I know, and it's reconciling with the intent of these earlier provisions of the plan and saying whether these provisions are valid.
Okay.
This is where the intent came from, that speaks to, and it's still the standards that are in place today from this 2004 provision that you'll hear me read.
Very well, thank you.
The Office Service District, C3 and C3A, is intended for intermediate-scale commercial office uses on larger parcels with direct highway access. There be no access to on local roadways except for emergency services. The district corresponds to the C3 and C3A zones and is concentrated in the Route 22 corridor within the regional center, with the exception of several out parcels located on Route 28, Milltown Road, and Route 22 at the municipal border with the township of Greenbrook. It permits a broad range of office uses for banks, professional and service uses, as well as research, medical services, banks, and financial institutions, and assisted living facilities. These are the uses that are permitted today. And it shows that this is when the intent was created. It was over 20 years ago. The primary difference between the C3 and C3A zones is that banks and financial institutions are not permitted in the C3A zone. Retail activity is conditionally permitted as an accessory use only provided as part of a larger principal office use. That still exists today as well. The bulk standards encourage low-rise campus-style development with a minimum lot area of 5 acres. That remains today. Lot coverage of 60% remains today. FAR of 0.30, that remains today, and a building height of 3 stories, 45 feet. So the intent of this district was created a long time ago. I've already indicated how since the 2004, you had your 2010 master plan that specifically looked and addressed the goals for the Route 22 corridor that this project advances. Regarding reconciling this use from your municipal master plan, the only area in Bridgewater where self-storage facilities are permitted are in your MIB limited manufacturing district, which allows the facilities on 2 acres in area. This is largely a manufacturing and industrial district. And I just want to see one thing here. And in my opinion, in my review of your master plan, they were placed in this district because of that 2004-ish Phase 1 type of facility that didn't lend itself well to other areas of town. I think it's clear that self-storage facilities have significantly evolved of land use over time, and that the Phase 1 facilities had many exposed bay doors and the like that didn't exude itself as an office-type building, which is being developed by the applicant. The modern buildings are no longer industrial in nature, but can be designed to resemble office buildings with similar HVAC systems. These are climate-controlled buildings now. They're not just you put your stuff in a one-story building with an orange door that's not controlled anymore, and the like. So it's my opinion that there are changed circumstances since when these facilities were originally contemplated decades ago, where these facilities were more industrial in nature. They've evolved, and also we've demonstrated that since many years ago, significant need has increased. There's been a significant need since then that helps reconcile that while office space is no longer needed like it was 20 years ago, now self-storage facilities are. And that's the changed circumstance that we'd like the board to consider as part of this application. In terms of design waivers under the Garofalo case, they simply have to be reasonable under the facts presented with some level of impracticality. You've heard the testimony from the previous witnesses. We believe that their testimony should suffice in regard to the design waivers. That's my direct testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ricky. What I'd like to do first is ask if any members of the board have questions specific to Mr. Ricky's testimony this evening. Mr. Fresco?
Thank you, Mr. Ricky. I think that was excellent testimony. About 8 years ago, I was an advocate against a town project. And at that time, what I didn't understand, just being a resident, was that where I lived was in a zone. you know, and I think that we've got so many concerned residents here, and what I'd like you to do for me, if you can just speak to this zone, because I think really at the heart of it is, we all love Bridgewater, and we all want to have a nice, wonderful place to live, but this zone had an intention. So if you can just spend just one more minute, just as plainly speaking as you can, explain where exactly this is and why, and why this isn't a quick check, you know, and why this is maybe better than a quick check.
Well, the zone, and I spoke to the intent of the plan, it was largely intended to be an office zone and allow assisted living facilities, uses of that type, right? And one of the reasons that we are here is that, you know, there are really limited opportunities in this zone from a planning standpoint, in that this site is sat the way it has because, you know, no one wants to build office space today. And that's how we got to this point in time, right? Because you really don't build new office space when there's existing availability of office space unless you're Apple or somebody that's going to build office that's for a specific use that you would need to build something that's not available in the marketplace. But the zone is intended to be an economic driver in your town. In towns, as a planner, when we master plan, like the zoning board doesn't anticipate or doesn't consider fiscal impacts, right? But when we master plan, we have areas and communities that we zone for economic purposes, and that there are areas that we zone and look for preservation. There's residential areas that are more intense than other areas. From a master planning standpoint, this is an area on a federal highway and a state roadway that was intended for economic development purposes. With that said, this applicant is trying to deliver a product, and a product that I think is the least intensive commercial use. We can't place residential here. I'm not sure if anyone wants residential, but we couldn't place that there. So we've essentially selected the least intensive commercial use that, other than if you want a cell tower, that's a passive use, right? This is a lower, more appropriate passive use that there is need for in the area today. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Amin, you had a question?
As a planner, do you know if there is a demand for this kind of spaces, self-storage spaces in this area, or how much of that space will be utilized in, will there be a lot of empty spaces, or you will get tenants to use it? That's the question, as a planner.
I'm really sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing the full question.
My question is there a demand for that kind of self-storage units in this area, in Bridgewater?
Yes, there's strong demand, and the operators, I mean, I presented some of the testimony, but operators don't make this type of investment unless they know that they can lease these spaces. They would go out of business, right? So they look at the demand very closely. But here, even after this facility is built, there still will be additional demand. Why I think that's important is that the local other providers in the area, we're not looking to outcompete them. And they offer, the one down the road, I saw that at the bay doors and the like, seems to be offering a little bit of a different product than this facility would offer as well. So there should be space for, or opportunities for everyone, is my point.
Okay.
Question. You said that a medical office building would require 480 parking spaces. How big would such a building be if it were in that?
Well, I just compared it to a building of this size to give you a magnitude of, the building likely, I agree with you, would likely be smaller because you would have to provide parking for it likely, but this facility requires, what do we have, 15 parking spaces? 11 are required, 15 are provided. A similar sized office building would require, what I said, 480 parking spaces. That's an indication of just from an intensity perspective between the land uses.
And are medical office buildings, maybe I don't have my microphone on, are medical office buildings in demand at present?
There are, I do see medical office buildings being built, yes.
So really,
Or I don't say built, but occupying vacant spaces.
so if you were to put a medical office building, which there is some demand for, in that space, how much more traffic would be generated?
Significantly more, and part of, just to clarify my testimony, is that you have a high degree of vacancy already. So there's space for those medical offices to already go into. And in the Bridgewater corridor, it's slightly lower than New Jersey as a whole. So you wouldn't build here an office space. If someone wanted to occupy an office space, it's already available for you. I can't give you exact, I'm not a traffic engineer, but as a planner, I represent a number of towns, as I said, and I've testified at multiple occasions. I can tell you that office traffic is significantly higher just based on the parking demand, right? If you needed 480 parking spaces, that means those cars are going to be coming to the facility, right? So that of itself speaks to the additional type of trips in terms of increased traffic as well.
But with a building this size, you wouldn't be able to fit 480 parking spots on this lot, would you?
I would defer that to our site engineer. I would say that we are close to half of the impervious coverage. I'm not sure if we can fit 480, but we could fit significantly more parking than what's showed on the plan today.
I think the purpose of Mr. Ricky's testimony was to talk about the intensity of use as it compares to what is proposed and what other types of facilities would require. He's not suggesting it's practical to build it there or even suggesting that somebody contemplate that, but using as a point of comparison.
That's what I was trying to get a comparison so that I know what would be permitted and what would be.
Oh, it's fair.
When Mr. Ricky offered that comparison, there was a discussion about the FAR and what the FAR intends to control, that being intensity of use. And just to illustrate the FAR not being necessarily one for one here because of the low intensity, and the way that he illustrated that was just using a parking ratio as an example. And just to go back to your earlier question about trip generation, just to remind you of what Mr. Going testified to in January, the trips of the existing tectonic facility and the existing farm stand, those existing uses generate more trips than the proposed self-storage building. So everyone's familiar with the size and scale of those two buildings in comparison to the size of this building, and yet the trips would be less under the proposed scenario.
Mr. Vesio, you had a question?
Couple questions. I think the number in the parking, definitely a good point there. So currently you have a FAR of 0.44, correct? And then 0.3 is the allowed zoning? Okay. So if you were to build a medical building that conforms, that would be about 2/3 the size? Would you say that's accurate? Would it be accurate to say then, okay, then 2/3 the parking, 2/3 of 480 would be kind of what this site would generally need to have for a conforming building?
Because it's a ratio, yes, that would be approximate, yes.
Okay. Regarding the occupancies, this occupancy type, is there anything inherently less safe about this type of occupancy versus if it was an occupancy that is permitted in a C3 zone?
That's an operational question. I would say that I know that these facilities are heavily monitored through cameras and the like, and I just know from testifying on these and being a board planner that there's great sensitivity taken to that because they monitor what's coming in and what's coming out. One of the things that I know, there's concern about like movement, right? If somebody's like would try to move in or something, so they're monitored very closely. It's really an operational question. That's all I can say is that I know generally as a planner. But I think with any type of land use, there's always, there's some
type of inherent risk associated with it. If I had an office building on it, I mean, could someone bring in something in or do something? Of course.
There is a lease, there will be a lease provision prohibiting any storage of hazardous materials. Obviously, no outside storage, no material storage outside, and the staff would be policing what's being brought into the facility to ensure that the requirements of the lease are being met. So nothing that would be stored here that you wouldn't find in your home, with the exception, obviously, of no petroleum products.
Are you aware of any sort of safety issues or crime associated at other facilities of this type of occupancy?
I'm not sure if I'm the best witness for this. Of my general knowledge, I represent one town that has, I don't know, 7 or so of these. They've done expansions. I've never seen a police report from the community saying there's a problem that they would like to see addressed as part of the staff review. So not to my knowledge, no.
Regarding noise pollution, would you think would this be generating more noise or less noise versus an approved use on this facility?
I believe once these facilities are occupied, as I said previously in my testimony, I've been on another facility for multiple hours in the Morristown area because I was doing a drone test of the area, and I saw one vehicle in 2 hours come to the facility. So there'll be a ramp-up period where the facility would be occupied. Here, the loading would be internalized to the building. There's no outside doors. Those have been removed. It's all internalized, right? So there's not a lot of outdoor activity occurring. There's no boat storage or any outdoor storage occurring here. So everyone's confined to the building. So the noise is the car coming in once in a while. And once it's occupied, if there's very little activity occurring, there's very little noise associated with it.
A few more questions, or one more. Regarding environmental hazards, do you have any concerns about this type of occupancy with environmental hazards versus, an approved user?
In what sense? Like somebody bringing an oil or petroleum product in and it
Or
leaks?
the type of general use you would have for this type of agreement? I know it's not no hazardous materials. Is there anything less sort of environmentally unfriendly with this type of facility versus,
Well,
another facility?
There's a prohibition on those type of materials being stored on site, correct?
Yes.
So the question is, if someone illegally brings in a prohibited substance, what's the liability for that? Is that the question, or?
My question is more about kind of, does this building generate any more has more damage to our environment versus, let's say, another building that could be put in this site?
I mean, I'm not sure if anyone on the board has used these facilities. These are people moving, don't have enough space in their house. They're storing general household items and the like historically is what's occurring here.
Okay,
An extra bed, an extra TV, and that's what you're talking about.
all right. And if we went with one of those other uses, do you envision that, I know we're about half the lot coverage, what would you say in terms of existing trees? Would there be a lot more removal of existing trees with those other uses on this lot compared to what we currently have?
Well, if they expanded the amount of impervious coverage, there would be more site disturbance, clearly. I can't speak to how many additional trees, but if you're going to disturb more of the site, there's going to be more, need to treat stormwater, potentially replant. Overall, there's a greater environmental impact because more of the site is disturbed.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Because I'd like to get to our board professionals. Ms. Armad, do you have questions for this witness?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ricky, just a few questions. You were mentioning kind of I guess it was like a market study or a demand study. Did you say that there are 2 facilities within Bridgewater?
No, I believe there's more, but in the trade area I was speaking to.
What is the trade area defined by?
3-mile area.
So does the trade area only the radius outside Bridgewater, or does it include the interior of Bridgewater?
The trade area was drawn based on my review of a 3-mile radius of the facility.
Of just this facility, not
Yes.
of Bridgewater as a whole?
No.
Got it, okay, understood. So the trade area might not include other approved self-storage facilities, like the one you alluded to, your involvement with, that was,
And that facility was never, it's not going to be built, is my understanding. I spoke with the applicant. I don't think they're going to build it. At least they
understood,
told me about several months ago they were not.
understood. And any other pending self-storage facilities that might be proposed at this time, those are not included either in that demand study?
I would need assistance in answering that question, because I wasn't the original preparer of the report.
Okay, that's fine. As far as the master plan, I know you relied upon the 2010 Route 22 element of the master plan as well as the 2004 master plan. The chairman had also mentioned that the township had updated its master plan just last year in a comprehensive review of all elements. And I don't know if you had a chance to review that at all.
I have, yeah, yes.
Were there any recommendations that you noticed about the C3 zone in particular that were included?
Did I miss, let me see. Did I miss something about the C3 zone in the current master plan?
There was a recommendation under the land use element of the comprehensive master plan that included that the township in the western portion of Route 22 and the C3 district to the east of Route 28 intersection should be evaluated for broad spectrum of permitted uses that consider the adjacent residential neighborhoods as well as the highway corridor. Doesn't specifically note this use, which I was going to question if, how you reconcile that the master plan specifically talked about this zone but didn't really include this use despite kind of the modernization of the use popping up in other places for use variances, et cetera, if you could reconcile that.
First of all, I believe what you said is that the master plan has suggested that this area be evaluated to include additional uses. What I did was looked at more specifically when the master plan recommended like the core uses, right, which still are largely intact and have not changed. And also when it specifically looked at the Route 22 corridor specifically. The reason I did that is because when you look at the Medici criteria, you have to evaluate whether conditions have changed. And here, the condition has changed as well, as you're saying in the most recent master plan, to evaluate different uses. And when the uses were really put on paper in terms of not actually having specifics, that was over decades ago. And now you're still saying that decades later to consider additional opportunities or uses. I think this is a use that makes sense for the reasons that I mentioned. And since there's no really formal recommendation and there is significant need, was my point, those are the changed circumstances here.
Thank you. And I just wanted to clarify that I know you talked about the kind of core original purpose of the zone. The 2010 Route 22 master plan element did specifically talk about the C3 zone, did talk about adding complementary uses, did make recommendations specific to it. I don't think you covered that. I just wanted to include that so the board is aware. And additionally, in regards to the demand, I think you'd answered one of the board's questions and responded in saying that, the operator wouldn't have made an investment. I'm not sure that an operator has been identified, throughout the course of this whole process. So I don't know if that's changed, if there is an operator associated with this, or a specific user business.
There has not, no.
There's not, okay.
Well, what Mr. Rivik is just referring to, that the team behind the project wouldn't have noted the site and prosecuted the application if there wasn't.
Understood. I took it in a different way, that an operator is kind of jumping at this opportunity, but I understand.
But there were team members, I think, to be fully
Yeah, well-
clear, that work in this industry and worked for numerous self-storage facilities that understood, what these facilities look for to design so that it would be a shovel-ready project and be attractive to a user.
Thank you. I think Mr. McNella from the board had asked kind of an alluding question that you'd covered that office uses and office vacancies and how they relate to it being a permitted use in this zone, but there are other uses that are permitted that you didn't really cover: nursing homes, assisted living facilities, adult medical offices, research and lab. And I don't know if you had any insight on kind of how those industries are doing and those uses are doing in Bridgewater specifically, or, more generally.
I did not reach out to the nearby medical facility to see if they would be looking to expand. It wouldn't be an adjacent site. There's a site between them, per se. Conceivably, there could be a nursing home facility on the property. I'm not saying that any other use would not occur here. The primary driver that we historically saw and was the primary use in this zone was office. And I was pointing out that there's no demand for that. And I was pointing out there is demand for this use.
Thank you. Just one final question. Mr. Kunzman, the engineer for your team, had mentioned that upon a question about not meeting the buffer requirements for the evergreen plantings, that the landscape plan, he felt met the intent of the ordinance requirement. And I bring this up because specifically the landscape requirements are related to buffers for non-residential uses and residential uses. So there are specific landscaping requirements. I guess the intent really is to provide a sufficient buffer between those two uses to make sure that they remain compatible. And in this case, evergreen plantings, likely because they retain, their lushness seasonally and wouldn't create an exposure in a season where they lose their leaves or things like that. Presumably, that's the intent of the ordinance in having an evergreen requirement. Would you agree?
I do. I thought the landscaping proposed was significant, and the height of planting as well as 8 to 10 feet at time of planting would show a significant impact to the site, I thought. Impact in a good way.
I think the landscape plan is well done. I'm just asking to reconcile the specific requirement as it relates to the proposal in being able to meet a certain requirement of the zone in relation to the other relief that's being sought. So really my question is, and I think you kind of answered it, is do you think the landscape plan is sufficient, and how do you reconcile the ordinance requirement specifically requiring a number of evergreens and not meeting that?
Well, again, I didn't provide the landscape testimony. It's my understanding that the applicant went at great lengths to maximize the buffering in that site. At certain point in times, you have limitations in site parameters that don't allow for plantings to a certain level, which I believe is occurring here. Also, I think that the board could evaluate the lack of access that's occurring from Route 28, which my understanding is that there's no prohibition on that. So the applicant is giving back access to their site from a state road as part of this. That also influences the buffering onto this property, traffic on local roads, and that collectively, this represents a better zoning alternative for this site.
Thank you. Final question. There was a conversation, I guess, a little bit about FAR and kind of its impact, or how it relates to the use itself. The FAR permitted, because this is still a commercial zone, is one of the higher FARs. I guess it's higher than the residential zones. It's kind of middle of the road as far as FAR in all the zones across Bridgewater. The highest permitted in Bridgewater really is 0.4. And that's even being exceeded by this proposal. So, and additionally, the township does have hillside development calculations, which reduce kind of the allowance based on the amount of steep slopes and sensitive areas on the property. So, just a question of how you reconcile the requested FAR in relation to the fact that it's not just the C3 zone, but pretty much township-wide, that you're still exceeding even the most allowed FAR in any zone.
Okay. I think I was clear regarding
that the first prong is to demonstrate that the site can accommodate the problems associated with decreased FAR. And I talked about the intensity of the use. I think I was pretty clear. I talked about the massing of the building in terms of how the mass of the building was lower than a single-family residential standard in a zone that allows 45 feet. So I think it was pretty clear that how the product was being delivered was not being overly intensive. Despite the fact that we do exceed your FAR, I also pointed out that the impervious coverage on this tract is woefully less as well. So the applicant is giving back substantially amount of impervious coverage that would occur in intensity of another use. To some extent, the FAR, at some point, I know it's a number, but when you look at the site in its totality, in terms of the height of the building, the amount of open space that it's provided, it still clearly, despite the fact, in my opinion, results in sound land use planning. And while that number is a number on paper that we're exceeding, when I look at the actual attributes of how this is being delivered, it doesn't result in my opinion, substantial detriment to the surrounding property owners. And in an economic development area of a town that allows for 60% impervious coverage and is trying to meet certain economic development objectives, I'm not sure how we're impairing the intent in that aspect as well. So I looked at it more collectively, not as just a static number in that regard.
Thank you, Mr. Ricky. Nothing further.
Mr. Armat, thank you. Mr. Byrd, did you have questions for Mr. Ricky?
I do not, Mr. Chairman, not at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, what I'd like to do now, please, is take a 10-minute break, and then we'll resume with questions of Mr. Ricky with the public at that time. So let's break for 10 minutes. conversations that needed to take place away from the meeting, but we're back on track now, and Ms. Probst is going to take us through a roll call so we can account for everybody and get started. Here?
Here.
Yeah,
Here?
Yes, here.
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 Thank you very much. So we are now going to continue, but Mr. Capizzi, did you have some remarks first, or are you okay?
Nothing to add at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We're going to continue with our session, but we'd ask at this time that the public pose questions, again, specific to the testimony of the planner, if you have any. So just his testimony, as you heard it this evening, and if you have questions, now's the time to pose those questions. Same rules apply. Come up to the podium, tell us your name, et cetera. If you haven't signed in yet, do that. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'll try to make this short.
Oh, sorry, but your name, just.
Oh, Carolyn Joya,
Thank you.
Gioia. Mr. Ricci, thank you so much for coming tonight. I was expecting a planner. We were promised a planner on January 27th, and then it got postponed. And then you're here, so thank you for coming. And I appreciate you wearing the hat of traffic engineer and the whole team, operator and planner. I believe our planner had asked you about the Chimney Rock facilities, Chimney Rock self-storage, that you were a planner for also, and you had commented that it was not going forward. Is there a reason it's not going forward?
Not relevant, right? Why is that relevant?
Well, he said it's not going forward. I was wondering if there was a demand reason why it wasn't going forward.
That's relevant.
All I can say is that.
If you know.
I'm not the operator. The operator said to me that, I guess based on, their costs and the like, that it didn't make sense from a financial standpoint. It wasn't based on demand.
It was not based on demand. Okay. Okay. My next question is, you had said that the facility would be on a federal highway. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the speed limit is generally on a federal highway?
I don't know the posted.
Not sure where you're
somewhere
going
between
with the speed limit.
55
Yeah,
miles
speed
an hour.
limit.
Hold on a second. He called it federal highway, and you asked him if it was going to be on a federal highway. That's appropriate. I'm not sure where you're going with the speed limit relative to his testimony, because he's not the traffic engineer.
I know, and you'll see later, I'm going to request the traffic engineer return because there were some serious questions about the speed that's going to take place in front of this facility. So since the traffic engineer and the operator aren't here,
His testimony had been concluded, and to my knowledge, he has no intention of coming back at this time.
I understand. It was sort of a common sense question. You know the speed limit's 55 to 65 miles an hour.
I didn't recall the posted speed, but generally it's 55 on a road of that nature.
Okay, and then
We've
there are
ascertained the speed limit. I'm still waiting for a question.
well, the question was, did you know that the speed limit is 50?
So he does.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the answer. Okay. All right. So are you aware that there are traffic lights on Route 22?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's spaces in between where sometimes there's a chance to accelerate, and then there's spaces where there's a lot of lights, and you don't go
I just
so
have to stop
fast.
you. I'm not sure how this is relevant to his testimony.
Okay. Well, I said it's really not, but the traffic,
It's really
the
not, then we
operator
won't
isn't
ask
here.
it because you'll have an opportunity
Okay.
to testify later. But I want to
Okay.
confine the questions as the hour is growing late so that we
Yes.
have more time for public comment.
Okay. I'll move on to, you said there was a need for self-storage, correct, in this area?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of an April 15th Wall Street Journal article entitled Self-Storage at a Tipping Point?
I'm not aware of that article. The numbers that I based were based on a local need, not just a general tipping point of the Wall Street Journal. I don't know the article, but a specific analysis was done for this area.
Okay. And then in that article, it talked about some units are using remote observation. Are you planning to use remote observation in your facility?
I don't know. It's an operational question.
Okay. Again, I would request that we have an operator appear in front of the board at some point before any vote is taken.
Mr. Chairman, we
Go ahead.
stipulated that it will be personnel truncated hours on Saturdays. As far as remote observation is concerned, in addition to on-site personnel, there will be a elaborate camera system in the hallway and surrounding the outside perimeter that will be observed by security personnel.
Thank you.
Okay. On the agenda for tonight, not hearing Solar Landscape LLC, they're putting solar panels on top. And you talked about alternate uses in your space. Is that something your storage facility would consider doing and generating solar power for our community?
I don't know.
Okay. I thought that would be a planning question, but I'm not sure. It's not?
No.
It's operating?
No.
Okay. You talked about need, and you said that our 2.7 is much lower than 5.1 and national 7.5. Do you think that could be because this area is primarily single-family homes that have garages and basements for storage?
The need, in terms of how it's generated, it's a pretty simplistic calculation, but it speaks to need. People with single-family homes as well have need for self-storage facilities, maybe not at the same level as somebody in an apartment, potentially, but they have needs as well. I have a single-family home. I live with another individual, and we have a self-storage facility. That's one example.
Well, I'm with you. I had self-storage too when I first moved to Bridgewater. In 2020, during COVID, I had to sell that because I kind of lost my job. And I looked for ways to save money. Today, people have higher health care, higher gas prices. Do you think people are going to be willing to spend money on a storage unit in these current economic times?
Well, I mean, again, I mean, this is the risk that an operator takes when they build something. They've done their analysis. They believe the need exists. They believe they can build or sell this and it can be built. I mean, that's why, I mean, that's a risk a developer takes in any context. At any time, a market could change or there could be a change, but that's the risk that they take.
That's true. My last question, you talked about the facility and use for that area. You talked about redevelopment. Are you aware there's a farmhouse on the property from the 1830s?
I don't know the date, but I'm aware of the Mellick Farm on the property, yes.
Okay. And are you aware that there might be an underground oil tank on the property that needs remediation?
I'm not, but, I mean, that's a site engineering question. I know that, you know, any of those issues have to be reconciled as part of development. So if there's an oil tank, that would have to be capped or go through the protocols with DEP to make sure that that's addressed. So I really should defer that to someone else, but that's just part of development.
Okay.
I think Mr. Capizzi would agree that if there were such environmental issues, they would be resolved to the satisfaction of the township regulations and ordinances. So I don't think that's a problem.
Okay. Would that be before or after the variance is granted?
After.
After.
It's not within the jurisdiction of this board.
But regardless of that, I'm not aware of any oil tank. I've been working on this property for several years, and there's been a significant environmental screening done. Whatever tank may have previously existed, I think was actually associated with the tectonic site, and that tank has been remediated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, those were all my questions. Thank you. And I do ask for an operator to come back and present to the board. Thank you.
I think it's important, Mr. Oler, to note that an operator is not required if this board decides to approve or even not approve the application.
Right, that's very true. And we did hear some background on, you know, basic operational testimony from others. So, right. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who have questions specific to Mr. Ricky's testimony regarding planning? Come on up and please sign in and then tell us your name. We may ask you to spell it,
My name is Phyllis Kalmbach,
and we're going to ask you to spell your last name. Phyllis, we got.
Kalmback.
Very well.
And your address, please?
531 Route 28.
Thank you.
I think most of my questions have been answered overall, except as an urban planner, with a master's degree in all of Bridgewater. Can you tell us what the need is, number of storage units?
I cannot, because I base my testimony on a report that was done by someone else. But that number is, it's a very simplistic equation. It's essentially, it's the amount of space that exists as it relates to population, and sometimes that trade area may change from 3, I've seen it from 3, and I've seen it at 5 miles. I mean, that could be based on maybe the size of the building or the facility or the like in terms of what they're trying to capture. But I was on the Chimney Rock application as well. That's located several miles away from here. During that application, there was testimony as, in that area of town, of significant need as well. So at least in those 2 instances, that need seems to be overlapping. I don't have a number for the entire town.
Okay. Where did you get your report from?
I don't know the exact consultants. Can you help me out with the
It
consultant?
was just internal conversations with the team.
Yeah. But there was a written report that
But you're
no, there's a
asking us-
written,
Excuse me if I don't wholeheartedly understand that, because you're consulting a study.
Yeah.
Now you're telling me it's conversations within a team. Has there been an official study done?
I reviewed paper documentation. I reviewed paper documentation of her findings.
Is there any of that on file, on record?
With respect to the study, just his testimony and whatever documents he may have prepared, but we don't have a copy, to my knowledge, of that study.
Is that inappropriate to ask for that? Because it seems like Bridgewater is ripe for a booming storage industry.
Well, it's not inappropriate to ask. They may not be able to present it, but his testimony was that his calculation...
I understand that.
Okay,
But his testimony was also that it was based on a study.
correct.
So I just would like to know, who did the study?
That's a fair question, and so far, we
And
don't
why
have
isn't there a copy
an answer beyond...
here? I would think that's very important for everybody planning in this town,
Yes.
especially in this day and age.
I'm sorry,
looking at-
I don't get the day and age reference, but I do understand the importance of
Well, I
questioning.
think we're a little turmoil in the country right now, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to afford storage units.
Okay, well,
As that young lady pointed out, laid off in 2020.
now you're veering into testimony. We prefer you confine this section to questions for the planner based on
Okay.
his testimony.
This isn't a question, but this is a comment.
Well, the comments can be reserved,
Okay.
the comments
This
can
isn't
be
a question.
reserved
No, I'm
until the
sorry,
end.
this gentleman insulted me.
He insulted you? Well,
Yes, he did.
I'm
I
sure
would
he
like
would
to address
apologize
that.
as such. I will apologize on his behalf.
Okay. Well, were they not encouraged to come out and speak with the neighbors? Because I work at the farm stand.
I'm sorry, but we really can't do comments now. You're welcome to do that when we get to that point, but right now, it's only questions about what he testified to.
Okay.
please.
So are you saying that the current business that's there now is not an economic driver for this town and specifically the community in the area?
When I spoke to the property overall, I was speaking to the tectonic building that was in significant state of disrepair. Do you agree with me on that, the tectonic building?
Is in disrepair.
Yes. The Mellick Farm building, clearly that's not the case. That's operating, in my opinion, more as an accessory use of the property on the Route 28 side and the like. And that appears to be, I would, in that context, in my review of that facility, I don't visit it, but it seems to be clearly a viable use of that end of the property.
You could ask a lot of these people here whether it's viable or not. And it is an economic driver, and it's something that we
Okay,
don't
again,
have
comments are
anywhere
later.
else in town.
Later,
Thank you.
later. Thank you, Mr. Ricky. Thank you.
So let's have additional questions for Mr. Ricky based on his testimony this evening.
Good evening. My name's Chris Field. I do not live in Bridgewater. I'm a self-storage consultant representing the Bridgewater United folks.
So do you have a formal relationship with whatever Bridgewater United is, which we haven't determined yet?
The townspeople reached out to me.
Okay, are you an attorney?
No, I'm not. No.
Well, then you cannot ask questions on their behalf.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Additional questions for Mr. Ricky based on his testimony this evening? And please give us your name, et cetera.
Nikolai Timku. Do you need me to spell both?
I'm sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Olai, Tymkiw.
I'm sorry, but give me your last name again, spelling?
Timku, Tymkiw.
Okay, thank you.
3610 Riddle Court. Riddle, Riddle. I just wanted to ask if you knew the occupancy rate of the storage facilities that are currently operating in Bridgewater?
I do not.
So I believe the national average right now sits at about 70%. Northeast Corridor, I think, is 76%. So I was wondering.
Now you're testifying, though, so if you can, you asked him if he knows what the current occupancy rate is. He said,
Well, those are national. This isn't for
no,
Bridgewater.
but I have no way of verifying your sources right now, and you're testifying. If you were testifying, then we'd have to swear you in.
Okay.
So we're just asking you to ask questions. You asked him if he knew what the occupancy rate is, and your answer, Mr. Ricky, was?
I do not.
He does not.
Okay. That's it then.
Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Ricky? And welcome back.
Jim Brady, thank you.
Jim Brady.
Before I ask my question, can I be sworn and give testimony on?
Yes.
At the appropriate time, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I know you were the planner in the Chimney Rock project, and so maybe you're familiar, I'm going to ask a question.
Please.
You may be familiar with the operator, his name Michael Lang, testified that 10% of the unit occupants visit daily. So if we extrapolate that to this project, or even that project, that's 75 cars a day. So how is that insignificant traffic increase?
So do you have a copy of the transcript from that?
I do, I have the resolution.
Okay.
Not with me, it's sitting on my desk, but I did use Oprah and procure it.
So I just want to caution the board that we really can't just accept that as truth. We would need a copy of the physical transcript, because he did testify under oath.
Right.
So if you wanted to quote what the testimony was as part of a question, you could do that. But I'm just letting the board know, we don't really know that to be accurate, okay?
I'd be glad to provide that along with some other statistics once I'm sworn. Okay, so where do I start? There's going to be a question, referencing the Wall Street Journal article from 2 weeks ago. It called Storage Units in America Dead Zones, Economic Dead Zones. So how do you see a storage building that you say has no activity, an economic driver? Like, what do you think, once they come visit, they go to Starbucks and that drives the economy of the community?
Well, when I speak in economic driver, I'm speaking about the replacement of the tectonic building that, represents a fairly small percentage of the site, and replacing it in an economic development zone with a building. That building, whether it's occupied or not occupied, would be taxed by the township, and that would provide an economic rateable to the community.
Okay, so it's based on a tax rateable, not creation of jobs or employees or anything like that? Okay.
I based it on the tax rateable. These facilities, there's very few people on site associated with it.
Okay. Once sworn, I'll provide the testimony from the Chimney Rock project that says there are people on site, 10%, which of a unit of this size.
Maybe you should just wait till that.
Okay, I should.
It'll just be more effective.
Let me get to the next question then. You had just met in your testimony, said that the architecture has significantly changed as a response to the board and the public input from the last meeting. Tell me how you justify changing it from a blue and white metal box to an earth tone and white metal box. And how is that architecturally significantly changed, other than a color scheme?
I think the removal of the roll-up doors from the exterior of the building where the project started was a significant change that allowed the building to transform to more mimic an office space, rather than largely an office building with those doors. So I thought that was a significant change. Over time, the loading that was now brought inside the building, so it wouldn't be visible. You don't really see too much loading like that associated with an office building. So I thought those were significant changes that made it more acceptable to emulate an office space and to, I mean, I think the goal here, and I think the board's goal was whatever that was going to be voted on would be the best product. And I thought that a lot of sensitivity was given to the neighborhood. I thought the landscaping that was provided, I thought the use is a very good use for a commercial use that adjoins residential. So I guess that largely answers my question.
Okay, thank you. Public input related to the architecture, and there's going to be a question, was requesting that it maybe, this design maybe mimic an adjacent property, the Sunrise Senior Home. Does this developer have any intention of, adding a gable, adding a soffit, make it blend into the adjacent properties, or is this pretty much what we're going to get, a metal box of varying tones?
Mr. Ricky's not in a position to answer that, but the developer is asking the board to vote on the application as it's presented.
Okay, so there's no going to be any modification to really represent the neighbor's wishes as far as the architecture. Okay, that's clear.
I don't think I'm going to let your statement stand on its face, because the applicant has made some changes to the facade, some changes to the placement of faux windows and so on, has additionally, in many ways, re-landscaped aspects of the property in response to that which was requested by the neighbors. So if you're going to make assertions, let's make sure they're accurate.
I will. The only reason I mentioned that is because he used the term significant changes to architecture, and I didn't feel that changing the color.
In your opinion.
Was significant.
Okay,
That's all.
thank you.
Okay, so addressing your claims of that there's no negative criteria associated with this particular usage, and you cited no noise, less traffic. Okay, so this is an operational question, so tell me if we have to wait till there's an operational representative here. But are you aware the noise generated by trying to heat and cool 102,000 square feet and the tonnage required and the decibel level associated with that tonnage?
There are certain decibel requirements that we have to meet at the property line, which will be met.
Okay, but no, but
Those are questions for the architect who you could have asked him during the January proceeding as far as.
I thought that was an operations question, as it's related
It's
to
a
the
state standard.
operation of
They
the.
have to comply. If you were a resident
Mhm.
and you felt that noise exceeded, if you felt the noise exceeded a state requirement, you could make a complaint, and that could be studied. It would have to be fixed.
Okay.
That was the case.
Do you think it would be prudent to ascertain that now as opposed to after it's in place?
I mean, I'm not the person to answer that, but these facilities are designed with that in mind, because they know they have to adhere to state requirements. It's a practice of
But they just have to meet those standards. So they've stipulated to meeting them, they must meet them, and if they don't meet them, then they have to go back and make changes so they can meet them.
Okay. The reason I ask is I'm reminded of the fiasco at the Milltown School down the road, where all the HVAC units had to be removed and shrouds and noise protection put on the roof due to residents' complaints after it was built. So that's why I think it's a pertinent question to ask at this
So
time.
it's a pertinent question, but the answer is,
They're going to do it.
yeah, they have to do it.
So okay, I have to accept that, but the tonnage required to do that generates like 95 decibels.
Okay, it's not time to test.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right, let
And
me
then
get
would have to
the other
qualify you
questions
as
relating to
an
his,
expert in
testimony. So if he's the only one here, then there's no traffic expert, right? So any traffic,
Traffic expert had previously testified.
right, I know, but there's no going back on any information that was before tonight.
Correct. But you can, at the end, offer your comments relative to those things that you have observed.
Okay, thank you. I certainly will.
So just any other questions for Mr. Ricky about his planning testimony?
Yes.
With the knowledge that there are other people who would like to ask questions as
Okay, I got it. Let me just make sure I ask anything. Okay. All right, it'll all be done then in the public comment period if he's not able to answer any of these questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public wishing to question Mr. Ricky on his testimony, that which he's given tonight. Welcome, and tell us who you are and sign in as well.
Hello.
You can move that mic down, by the way.
Yeah, I'm a shrimp. Michelle Glick, Glick, 4 Sterling Drive in Bridgewater. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, when and if this does go through and they take over, what's the chances of them changing what the building's supposed to be? Is that something that can happen?
In terms of the appearance of the building?
No, the whole setup of the building, can it become something else?
No, because when this board approves the site plan and the floor plan, we have to build what we say we're going to do. So if that occurred, just say the only thing that could occur is something very minor that could be done administratively. Like we're talking about, if you couldn't, I don't know, just say you couldn't get a type of tree that was an evergreen, maybe they would swap out to a comparable tree. But anything significant would have to come back to this board for approval.
Okay, I'm just
I think
talking
that's
about the whole operation itself.
Right, I think that's the important, where you're getting at with your question. Can they change the purpose of what they've built? And the answer is they cannot unless they come back to this board for the approval of their new proposal.
Okay, and also, it's hard to tell from the picture far away. They have these large bays, tall bays. Are those for tall trucks coming in and out? Really tall?
I'm not sure if I can answer the question. I didn't, you know.
How
So
tall?
not tractor trailer.
They're not tractor
No,
trailers.
not those, but box trucks that might have a few items on them that somebody who's transferring, let's say they're moving from one location to another, they want to put some excess materials in there, that kind of thing. I think that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the kind of truck you're looking to accommodate? That is correct. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. And sign in if you would, and then tell us your name and your address.
My name is Stuart Usum. I live at 23 Purcell Road. My last name is spelled pardon me, U-S-E-M. My question is, at the beginning of your testimony, you had mentioned the deviations or exceedances. Isn't it true that the deviations and exceedances, especially of the floor area ratio, wouldn't exist or be as severe if the building the applicant proposed was smaller?
I agree.
Thank you. My only other question regards the study that you testified about. Obviously, you testified as a planner because either the information affected the positive or negative criteria.
I testified, yes, as.
But that doesn't exist,
What's
that report.
It's not an official report, but it's not on file, correct?
Thank you. I'll have a comment about the fact that it doesn't exist, even though the planning testimony was given as affecting the positive or negative criteria.
Okay, that's fair.
Thank you.
Do you have additional questions, or?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the public wish to ask Mr. Ricky any questions regarding his testimony tonight? Welcome. Tell us who you are and your address, please.
I am Dan Whalen, W-H-A-L-E-N, at 445 Meadow Road. Just give me 1 second. You brought up the impervious cover. Did anyone look at the fact that there's an unnamed tributary there dumping into a C1 river? And does that have to go through NJDEP for any further studies or water runoff solutions?
We did analyze that, and our civil engineer discussed it.
Oh, did it? I'm sorry, I missed that part. It's the only question I have then. I guess that was for another part.
No, we're asking questions of Mr. Ricky only on his planning testimony. They had testified previously to the condition that you were talking about, and that was done at a prior meeting. So you can get that information, but it's not something we can question them on this evening.
Okay, I thought that was part of the impervious cover. Never mind.
Thank you. Members of the public, additional questions on Mr. Ricky's testimony? Welcome, and sign in, please. And then tell us your name.
My name is Lisa Esposito, and I live at 454 Lenape Trail in Bridgewater. So I have a question semi-related to, I think, what Ms. Glick had asked previously. I understand what you said about if this is built as a storage facility, it cannot just be changed into something else. But my question is there any kind of restriction on who is allowed to store things there? For example, like could Amazon not use it as a warehouse, but use it as a storage facility, or Wayfair, or Walmart.com, like they do at the one in Branchburg? Is there any kind of restriction around that?
You mean as a warehouse?
Mhm.
Yeah, if this is approved, there'll be a condition that this building cannot be used as a warehouse.
But not as a warehouse, though, but could it be used as a storage facility for Amazon or Wayfair or any of the big box stores?
It's going to be approved for a number of storage units.
Mm-hmm.
So that configuration would have to stay.
Okay.
And for retail,
But it doesn't matter who rents those units? That's my question. Could Amazon rent a unit?
I'll just say like this, you have to look at it from the perspective that these are very small.
Mhm.
I have like an 8 by 8 foot, right? So these type of spaces, to begin with, aren't attractive to people like Amazon and those type of facilities. Because, they have massive warehouses that they use for that purpose. So fortunately, this would be something, like I'm just telling you, like, as a city planner in other towns, it's just not attractive for them. If Amazon wanted to store some of their office boxes or something in an office space or something, in a couple boxes or something, but they wouldn't be storing product or thing like that. It just doesn't make sense for them.
So there's a location that's across from ShopRite on Route 22 East, so it's technically in Branchburg, but it's right on the border. It used to be a miniature golf. Then it was bought and built as a storage facility, and the occupancy was low, so it was now renting space to Amazon and to Wayfair. So those trucks are going in and out of there all the time. So my question is, what would prevent that from happening here?
I think the board could put a condition against that happening, if that's not the intent of this facility. And I'm sure that's a short term, if that's happening, that's a short term type of situation, because it's just, at one point there was a time where warehouse space was where you couldn't build enough of it. That's no longer the case. I know this because I'm a city planner in the city of Linden that has a tremendous amount of warehouse space. I prepare redevelopment plans for them. We have Amazon and other type facilities. So I think that's a rarity that you're talking about, if that's the case. And it's not how these facilities are designed. That's not what they're looking for. If they're using it, they're very desperate.
It may not be what they're looking for, but it's
Yeah.
happening right down the road. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public with specific questions to Mr. Ricky and his planning testimony? And please tell us your name and sign in.
Inder Banga, 376 Route 28, Bridgewater, New Jersey. I hope the board will allow me some extra time. I was actually across the way at the BOE meeting, so I can question Mr. Ricky here. Mr. Ricky, so are you the same planning professional who prepared or supported the Chimney Rock self-storage?
I am.
Great. Is it accurate that the Chimney Rock application is being withdrawn or no longer proceeding as a self-storage facility? I'm sorry, what was that, mister?
I gave.
relevant. I'm objecting to the question because it's not relevant.
Then you should make that statement
I just
so that
did.
everybody can hear it.
I just
All
did.
right, thank you.
You're responding to it, so you heard me.
I didn't hear it. All I hear was
What are you
mumbling.
responding to then?
All I heard was mumbling.
If I may, gentlemen,
All right.
your question was, is he the same planner? And he said he is.
Correct.
What was your next question? I'm
I
sorry.
asked if he knew that the self-storage for the chimney rock was being withdrawn.
So first, let me just address that. There's a very limited relevance with respect to another application. And I can also report to the board that the attorney for Chimney Rock contacted me yesterday and today in anticipation of their filing an application for an extension of their approval. It is not, as far as I know, right, based on that conversation, not being withdrawn.
Okay, fair. So, if that's the position that we're going to take, I would like to ask the planner regarding the basis for concluding that the self-storage is particularly, what makes this specific tract, that self-storage is particularly suited for this property under the Medici?
I mean, I gave significant testimony on that. Do you want me to go through all my testimony again?
If you can just summarize, I apologize, I wasn't here, so I would like you to indulge me.
We don't
Thank
want
you.
him to really say his testimony a
I
second
just said
time.
summarize.
Yeah, but there's no purpose for that. We've heard it.
We've heard the testimony. I'm sorry you weren't here, but you can ask another question, because we're asking you to ask questions relative to his testimony, and you'll be able to offer public comment later.
Mr. Ricci, the applicant, obviously, as you know, submitted a winter condition rendering from Bogart Drive. Are you aware of that?
From who?
From the Bogart Drive, so on the Route 28 side, looking at the subject property.
It's been some time, but yes.
So the rendering shows a significant building mass visible above the proposed landscaping. Do you stand by that rendering as an accurate depiction of the visual impact?
If that's the rendering that was presented by this team, yes, and those trees do grow over time as well, so that just lessens over time.
If you can help me out, what is the assumed maturity of the planting shown in the renderings, and how many years post-planting does that represent?
When I spoke to the architect, yeah.
I believe that question was previously asked at a previous meeting in terms of the maturity of the trees, and somebody made reference earlier today to being 8 to 10 feet upon planting. So I don't know if that helps you, but
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr.
relative to his testimony.
I wasn't here, I just got here at 9:30, so I'll take your word for it. The M1, so has any view analysis been conducted from Route 28 showing the rear elevation? And if not, why? Okay, so there was no analysis that was done on Route 28?
What the analysis has been done, has been provided to the board.
Okay. This is a question for our planner. If this board conditions approval on meaningful rear facade treatment facing Route 28 enhanced landscaping guarantees, would the applicant accept those conditions? All right.
The reason being is that there's no variances as to 28. Condition of approval needs to mitigate or ameliorate negative or close to the variance. There are no variances as to building height or setback on 28.
Okay, understood. This is just being about a good neighbor, but.
We've been good neighbors.
Sure, thank you for that. This is for the planner. Your own market study, I think you had quoted, and this is just something that I had heard from one of my fellow residents, that the net rentable square feet per capita was around 3 feet. Is that correct?
2.7.
2.7. Okay. So I think we have other numbers, and I'm happy to provide that to the board. That show within 5 miles is around 5.52 and 6.11. What does that do to the economic viability based on your numbers? And if it's north of 5.52 for this project?
I would have to review your analysis to answer that question to see if it's accurate.
Okay. Just to follow back on one of our residents' questions here, and specifically, I'd inquire to ask the board this, but, obviously last mile with Amazon and others, do demonstrate a clear and really dangerous precedent, I think.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe he's leading into a question, though.
I'm going to lead into a question, thank you. So the question is, will the applicant, have a condition that they will not rent out to, potentially retail and/or e-commerce type sites for this self-storage?
I'm not the applicant.
Well,
I
you're in a
can't tell you, they've already indicated that there, and would agree to a condition where there would be no retail out of the building, there would be no separate employees working out of any of the spaces. So the only way this building gets used is by someone coming with their own vehicle to drop off or pick up, right? There's no one in the building that's, then handing them a package, okay? I don't know if that helps you, but there's no separate business being conducted or to be conducted in the building.
So, for example, and just indulge me if you don't mind, a potential person coming from, let's just call it e-retailer, drops a package in said facility, another employee of that same company goes to the same unit, picks up that would not be allowed in what you just mentioned. Is that?
No, what I'm saying is they would not be able to have an employee working, physically working, a 9-to-5 job from the facility. So no one is parking at a desk or otherwise in any of these units.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying, but I won't probe any longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public question for Mr. Ritchie about his testimony? Okay, seeing none, let's close that portion of the meeting. Mr. Capizzi, you want to summarize for us where we are?
We don't have any further witnesses at this time, Mr. Chairman. Certainly, we reserve the right to call a witness should it become necessary in the future.
Yes.
But I think now, depending on where we are at the time, what the board wants to do, to hear public comment.
So, Mr. Oler, given the lateness of the hour, does it make sense to start public comment and then?
Well, I mean, we have 15 minutes, I would start.
Okay.
Right.
So we're going to open up the floor to members of the public who would like to express their, remember, you're not asking questions now. You're just testifying to whether you approve or don't approve of this proposal. And we're going to limit your testimony to 3 minutes. We have a number of people, if we were to get through everyone, would be here until midnight, so we're probably going to have to continue the public comment, and we're certainly willing to do that. But we're interested in your opinion, your observation about the business that's been presented to you, and if you can confine your remarks to 3 minutes, it would be appreciated. So is there someone who would like to start? So we can use the time to have somebody else start. We'll still use the time until you're ready. Give you a little time to get acclimated to the, we could do without the sound just right now. You were here before, but please remind us, please, of your name.
Sure, Dan Whalen, W-H-A-L-E-N.
Dan?
And I just want to say I'm against this.
So wait, Mr. Whalen, I'm sorry. Just-
Yeah,
No
we have to-
problem.
So this part
Yes.
is sworn testimony.
Okay.
So anyone who comes up is going to be sworn in to give testimony. So would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And your address again, please?
445 Meadow Road.
Thank you.
And I just want to say I'm against this. My father helped build the Shade Tree Committee. Sorry, he passed away, so I'm a little. We're third generation here, and we're about to have a fourth generation on Thursday. And I don't
Hey,
see this built.
congratulations.
Thank you. I don't want to see this built. Bridgewater has always been beautiful. I'd like to stay here. I really don't want to see it get ruined for my kid and everyone else's generation. That's all I got to say.
No, that's fair. Thank you for sharing your opinion.
Carolyn,
You do this in 3 minutes?
Is it okay? I have several residents who yielded me their time, so it would be about.
There's no such thing as
little over
yielding
5.
your time. We're not on the floor of
Why
Congress.
don't we get
Floor of
started and see
Congress.
how we do? Let's.
Yeah, we won't cut you off if you're okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
God,
Thank
thank you. And your name, please?
Carolyn Joya, 1402 Paley Court, Bridgewater.
GIOIA?
Yes, everybody
Yes.
knows now. Okay.
I wrote it down.
Okay, I am here to specifically address traffic concerns. I was here for the traffic engineer. I questioned the traffic engineer. I followed up with the police department. I have done additional research on my own that I would like to share with the board and everyone in the room. It includes a video and several photos. Okay, I think what this will prove is that the applicant's traffic statement, not study, is not adequate, and that the applicant needs to do a supplemental, enhanced, boots-on-the-ground study to analyze the traffic safety that will be affected by putting this unit in on Block 400, Lots 1 and 2. So first I have the video all lined up.
Okay, so before we do the video, is that what we're doing first, is the video?
Yeah.
Okay, so just for the record, we're going to mark this video as Exhibit 01, okay? And can you tell me when this was taken?
Yes, this video was taken, it's a 33-second traffic flow video that I took on Saturday, November 8th, 2025 at 3:49 p.m. Okay?
Okay, and you took it?
I took it.
Okay.
And what are we going to see?
Okay. You will see that I took a video from the front of the proposed storage facility site. Towards the end, you will take note of the Lowe's and FedEx 18-wheelers traveling nearly back-to-back at highway speeds just feet from the proposed dual entrance exit lane of the facility. While the video was taken on a cloudy Saturday afternoon, just imagine what would happen on a clear day at rush hour with sun glare blinding drivers as they exit the facility from the west. Disruption of traffic flow right there is a recipe for disaster. I will show that this location has no direct access from Route 22 West, forcing commercial vehicles onto a confusing and accident-prone turnaround. Missing just one of the multiple turns forces travel onto residential streets. This location has no acceleration or deceleration lanes off a single sloped shared entry-exit driveway. This driveway has dangerous visual obstructions, including natural brush, sun glare, and possible snow piles in the winter, which inhibit safe entry onto an active and already dangerous section of a federal highway. This location is also densely populated with deer that creates unpredictable and uncontrollable road hazards.
So when we're looking at the screen, and you put it up there, so we're all looking at it.
Okay, no.
So as the screen, as I look at it from the left to the right,
I'm standing on the site.
I believe you. I'm just trying to explain to myself and the audience, the left of the screen I'm looking at is west,
So,
correct? And the traffic is heading east.
Yes.
Okay,
Here we go.
got it. Right. Okay. So your testimony is that you took this video and the observation that you made was, and we're going to see more?
My observation is that it's unsafe to exit the facility.
In your opinion?
I'm asking for another traffic study to be done so that an expert.
But you're asserting your opinion that you're saying it's unsafe.
Yes,
and
I'm asserting my opinion.
This video evidence that you're presenting
It looks
is meant
unsafe
to
to me.
support your position.
Yes.
Okay. So without having the board having to sit through a variety of videos and given a limited time, is there something you're working toward that's going to be critical to your opinion?
I'm requesting that the
I
board,
heard the request. The requesting that the board is asking, is that we ask the applicant to bring back their traffic.
to do an enhanced traffic study.
And
if
so
they-
far, we heard you, we haven't made any decision about that.
That's okay.
Okay.
If they don't want to do it or can't do it for some reason, I would ask the board to encourage the Township Engineering Department to do it. I spoke to Traffic Sergeant Florzak, and he said that they are within the purview to do that. I spoke with Commissioner Sarah Sui. She said the county has done traffic studies multiple times, and they might, in this case, be available to assist.
And it is, I think, important for you to know and for the public to know that given the limited intensity of this project and the limited amount of traffic that it might generate, it's not required to do a full traffic study. So what we're saying is we have a difference of opinion, and you're asking the board to help make the decision about that difference of opinion. That's really what it comes down to. And that's what we're here for.
Okay, well, that brings up the next point about this traffic statement. You're correct. It says that there will be less cars going by. However, it does not talk about the type of vehicles that this storage facility is going to attract, and that would be box trucks, that would be U-Hauls driven by people who don't know how to drive them. They are going down a sloped driveway. There is sun glare turning left. As you're trying to get on to 22, you might not be able to see. There are visual obstructions. So the problem with their study is they don't include the types of vehicles that attract, or that storage facilities attract. And I think that needs to be included. It's very significant. The ability to speed up or slow down is going to be way different for a regular person driving than in a box truck, where there's no acceleration lane.
And I believe you. And now we're really stretching the limit of time that you have allotted.
All right, then
So-
I'm just going to show the other pictures I have.
Okay. We don't have to go through another 30 seconds, though, do we, of watching cars go by?
So just for the record, the one that's up there now, we're going to mark as 02, and that's the one with
Sun
Hertz
glare.
truck, right?
Right.
This is a Google map showing the only way to access the unit is from 22 West is to go on 22 East and take a rapid, crazy turnaround. And if you miss your turn, you're on residential roads on Bogart and other streets. I did an Oprah request for all accidents in the surrounding area. There were 80 or so over the past 5 years. Many of them were due to deer, and many of them were on Route 28, Bogart, Buena Parkway, Meadow Lane. It's documented. I just need to say that this video was taken, it's only 3 seconds. It was taken in the front of my development off Vanderveer. I was on Milltown Road. I saw a truck, a box truck, trying to go under the underpass at Milltown Road. There happened to be a police officer there. He was signaling turn around. I said, this guy's going to shoot down Vanderveer. I went to my house. I stood in front of my entrance, and this is what we saw.
So for the record, we're going to mark that 04.
The speed limit on Vanderveer is 25. Okay.
I can appreciate what you're saying. Go ahead.
This is just a broken guard.
Okay, 05, you can describe it. Go ahead.
Exhibit 05. This is a guardrail that was taken out at the 2228 ramp. That one, for the record, was taken March 2nd, 2026, at 11:11 by Inderbanga.
Gotcha. Looks like somebody hit the light pole there.
Yep, somebody knocked it out. Same part, 2228 ramp, very dangerous. This image was taken March 4th, 2026, 2020, sorry, 220, PM by me.
Okay, and that one then is 06, okay? Yep.
This is right before the driveway of the proposed storage facility. Some people
What is
say
it?
it was a car fire.
Or fire?
I know that one of the gentlemen who spoke here lives very close. He went over, took this photograph for me. That was taken March 12th, 6:32. There was a long line of cars backed up from the accident, obviously. The ramps were backed up. He testified to me that when he arrived, he saw a white vehicle being taken away from Tectonic. You can look at the front fender, whatever you call that thing. The grill.
Well, I don't want us to draw conclusions about
Yeah.
still photographs.
It looks like
that
an accident.
Neither you took nor any of us could have possibly seen. If you don't mind, just summarize what you're trying to tell us.
Okay, here's my summary. I hope you all take into consideration as you continue your due diligence on whether this applicant has met the burden to prove that this self-storage facility is a benefit to the community in the location they are proposing. Lives are literally at stake here, and no stone should be left unturned to protect the residents of Bridgewater. So I respectfully request you deny the variance, and until a more in-depth on-site traffic study is conducted either by the applicant or the township. And I thank you for your time and attention to my concerns.
Thank you. So we're getting close to our timeline. What do you want to do in terms of, you want to have somebody else ask a question, or? Yeah. Let me allow, please, if I may, for at least one more person from the public to provide testimony regarding their opinion on this project and what their feelings are. So, and tell us your name after you sign in and where you're living.
There's not a...
Not a pen? Sorry, somebody stole a pen.
Oh, there's one right here, but...
Okay. If not, I have one I can lend you.
My name is Herset Adamulam. I'm at 497 Milltown Road, Bridgewater, New Jersey, 08807.
Would you spell your last name for us, please?
Alpha, David, India, the first three letters. Mary, Umbrella, Larry, Alpha, Mary.
Gotcha.
All right.
Herset, Henry, Umbrella, Ryan, Sam, India, Thomas, Henry.
A lot of names. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
So just my general concern as a resident of Bridgewater who's been here for 20 years, I don't think this storage facility should be built or even approved by the town or by the zoning board as yourselves, mainly because it provides, it doesn't provide a lot of safety reasons, and it's going to be a lot of traffic issues, and just we need to bring more awareness to this and more, research and more look into this. And as just a general safety awareness, like being that facility on 22 and 28, you have a lot of high-speed traffic going anywhere around town. If you're going down towards the Circle, going towards ShopRite, or towards China Moon where that little strip mall outlet is, or towards the general neighborhood where I live, it's a lot of, kids in the neighborhood, drivers that are driving around. So I just want to make sure that you are all aware of this and that, it shouldn't be brought to, being approved. That's all.
Thank you. Let's see if we can squeeze one more person in tonight, because we will allow for additional testimony, but it's getting late and we don't want to stay later than we have to. Please come up.
Hi, my name is Garrett Facone. I live at 386 State Route 28.
You spell your last name, please?
That is Facone, F as in Frank, A-C-C-O-N-E. I just wanted to state that I oppose to this storage unit being built as a direct neighbor. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have to sign, sorry.
Yes, that's quite all right. So we're going to conclude the public remarks right now, and I wish we had more time this evening, but we don't. So we're going to have to continue this meeting to another date, and we're going to have to discuss when that might be. The public would be invited back to finish their testimony. If you've already testified, by the way, you will not testify again. And we're trying to manage the time as best we can to afford the applicant the appropriate courtesy that they deserve, not only for the work they've done so far, but every time they come back, it costs them money. So we're mindful of that. So with that, Mr. Capizzi?
Mr. Chairman, I had spoken to the board secretary briefly during the recess about available dates, and I understand it's a pretty full calendar the board has, and that the earliest date was sometime in August. My calendar in August does not seem to align with the availability for the board's dates during that time. Is there any opportunity for a special meeting date so we can finish up public, or perhaps sneak me in on a upcoming agenda just to deal with public comments so the board can finish out the public comment, deliberate, and vote so we can
So let me
take the matter off the board's calendar?
something that maybe we can look at, all right? On June 23rd, right, we have one application that's going to not occur, and then we have two applications that are scheduled for their first hearings, right? So what if we continue this for that night? Those other two people can be told in advance that they're welcome to come and sit, and if we get to them, we get to them, or they can save themselves that grief and give us an extension of time until the August meeting. I just think it's more appropriate to finish something we've started. This has been going on a really long time, and, August, and now it sounds like September, listen, I've been doing this a long time, and I know most boards don't like doing special meetings in the summer, right? So,
There are a number of meeting nights upcoming where there's only one application on, right? There's a few of them. Now, some of those applicants chose those nights thinking they were going to be the only application on. I don't know how much we have to honor that as the board handles its own scheduling, right, Rich? So there is an opportunity for at least two dates, one in end of May, one in June, and one in July, that have just one application on, if the board would want to end.
yeah, and just to talk about what those are, right?
Please.
For those purposes. So, May 26th, June 9th, and then July 14th,
Correct.
right? And I guess the other one's July 28th, although that one's, I don't think you'd want to be here when that one's
The
going on.
25th, the 8th, and what was the other one?
Yeah, it's May 26th,
Right.
June 9th, July 14th. Those are the three dates you're talking about, right? Okay, so on May 26th is that Cafe Amelia, which is, what, their third hearing?
The only night that I'm available is
You're
July
not?
14th.
Okay.
The other two I'm already booked in other municipalities.
Oh, the only one you are available is July 14th?
Correct.
Okay. So, and that's one that may or may not happen, right? That Hinkle
Potentially, but
application?
either way, they're a bifurcated application that's had a meeting already, so there's
Yeah.
a potential that they would also only need about an hour and a half.
Yeah, so that might be a good night to try and do both.
Yes.
All right, with this one going first, because I really think it deserves, attention. It's just been ongoing for such a long time. So would July 14th work then for
Please.
your team?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay? July 14th?
Yeah.
All right, so then for purposes of the public, this hearing is going to conclude this evening. It will continue on July 14th at 7 PM in this room, and there will be no further notices from the applicant, okay? With the very strong goal of trying to finish that night.
Mr. Chairman, certainly the applicant gives the board an extension of time through July 14th to render a decision on
In
the
fact, I'm going to ask you to go through the July 28th meeting, just in case.
That's fine.
Okay, so,
Through July 28th, then.
Very well.
okay?
So we're in agreement?
July 14th,
Very good.
okay?
It'll be heard first, correct?
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Ms. Probst, is there any additional business we have this evening? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Sorry, if I may.
I have like 3 minutes, so everybody's,
I just need 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
This was prepared by our professional, Chris Fields. This is a report called Route 22 Self-Storage. I would like permission to present this to the board as evidence, and we can provide this to the applicant as well.
Sure, give the
Challenges
applicant,
the economic
give the applicant a
viability.
copy, and give Nancy a copy. She'll distribute it to the board,
Okay,
okay?
so I will provide it to Nancy, and then she
Yep.
can,
And to the applicant's attorney.
okay, I only have one copy.
Well, then give it to, can you just email it to him then?
do you have an email?
Okay.
I can
emailable
provide it
version
to
too?
Nancy, sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't even know what it is.
Right.
Right. Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
We have a motion to adjourn. I'll second it. All in favor?